Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am, of course, Joe Vollano. I am your host, your guiding light through all the craziness that's going on in the world today. And this is just another week of just complete madness going on out there in the world today. But for those of you who are new to the show, I am Joe Vollano. I am your host. And this show always works best. So we try to make sure we get you guys involved in the show. And because an engaged audience is an informed audience. So if you want to call in and talk about anything we have to talk about tonight, the phone number into the studio is 203-679-9610. Or you can email us at straighttalkjv@gmail.com. Or, of course, if you're on the message boards, we are on Facebook. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. So you can watch it from any of those platforms, and you could also join in. So if anyone saw, I had a quick little survey, a little debate that we were having over the weekend, because the 90s Con was going on up there in Hartford this weekend, and there was a debate going on. I had a crush on Topanga when I was growing up. Boy Meets World. And someone was trying to tell me that Kelly from Saved by the Bell was hotter or whatever, and I was disagreeing. So we put it out there in on a little debate today, and my girl won. So she was actually up in Hartford this week. So that's when it says Joe really Topanga, yes, Lisa, yes, and I will stick by that. So we got a lot to talk about this week. We're gonna just touch on what's going on, the update on Russia and Ukraine, and then we're gonna talk about the RTCs, because I promised that I wanted to do this a couple weeks ago, but the new town committees take effect this week, and most of them I think are meeting this week, and they'll elect their officers or do all sorts of different things. So we'll go through all that, and really I want to break down because I think a lot of people don't understand what the town committees do, and really I think there are even some that are on the town committees that don't really understand what their job is or what their duties are. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the ins and outs and what their main objectives are, and how each Republican and each Democrat should be paying attention to what they are doing, because remember, they do represent you. They are elected to those positions on behalf of their designated parties. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about redistricting, because the final maps did come out, and I think there's two big differences. One, that the 82nd is strictly a Meriden district now, and they have taken out Middlefield totally. And then the 83rd, if it wasn't complex enough before the redistricting, it's really complex now, because now you have three towns that you have to deal with. Not only Meriden and Berlin, but now you have parts of Cheshire too that used to belong in the 90th and the 86th, if I remember correctly. But we'll go through that and what that means for the people of Meriden. And, of course, that is an open seat this year because Kathy Abercrombie is not running. Apparently, we're irritating some people out there in the community about what we talk about here on the show, especially since we talk about certain individuals, and that's okay. But we'll get into that too. And I love how we don't matter, but then, yeah, we do matter because we live rent free in people's heads. But that's either neither here or there at this moment. I'm still sticking by, just for clarification, I am still sticking by my original prediction for the 83rd. So we'll talk about that again towards the end of the show. But first, I want to give a recap. We are in day, I believe, 17 now of Russia, Ukraine going on over there. And it is just as bad as it was when it originally started. And right now, it looks like Russia's looking for help. Listen, at the end of the day, when you come into another country, when you invade another country, and think that you're just going to walk on through. I would have thought Russia would have learned this from Afghanistan when they went into Afghanistan and got their asses kicked there. It looks like it's happening again in Ukraine. They didn't learn their lesson the first time. So I really been trying to figure out what Putin is doing. Why is he doing this? Because when you look at it, there is no good end game for him. There is no good end game. So I've been trying to read up on it and read about Putin and who he is and what he's done over the years and trying to get a sense of where he's trying to go here. And this one thing keeps coming up is that maybe he's not doing very well because he'll never survive this. If this does not go in a better direction, Putin does not survive through this war. So the theory that's been out there now is maybe Putin is sick. Maybe he's ill. And this is his last hurrah before leaving office, which kind of makes sense when you think about it, because, you know, he's going to do one last push to unify the old Russia, the old Soviet Union put it back together. And maybe this is his best chance. But I mean, now that he has to go asking to China for help, I don't know. I don't see anything good coming out of this. But you know, we'll wait to see. But like I said, God bless the people of Ukraine. You know, they are fighting back and fighting back hard, and they're doing an amazing job over there. And kudos to countries, you know, in the European countries that are helping out with funneling guns and taking care of refugees, and Poland giving the MiGs. Hopefully that's going to help a lot, especially with that big convoy that's coming around. So we'll see what happens. You know, like I said, we'll stay on top of it. We've been on top of it. I do find it interesting that he is reaching out to other countries now. And again, it's going to be China, it's going to be Iran, it's going to be North Korea, places like that could help them and that are relatively close. Obviously, Russia, North Korea are probably the easiest ones to get weapons and stuff back and forth from. And of course, and then you have Iran, who of course just hates America. So they'll do anything that's not in our best interest. But I think China is still looking to take Taiwan. And I think they're waiting to see how this plays out. Because if there's no pushback on Putin, if the free world does not go after Putin, who's now bombing hospitals and schools and everything else in between, and put him on trial for war crimes, I think that gives the Chinese an absolute green light to do whatever they want with Taiwan. And Taiwan will affect our economy more than Ukraine. Mark my words. We haven't been wrong here yet. And I don't think we're wrong here now. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, we'll keep our eyes on it. And as of right now, I do see that is a good thing that Putin has to go outside now for help. So we'll see what happens there. So to the most important thing of the day is I want to talk about the Republican and Democratic town committees. I'm going to put links to both of their pages on. You'll probably see them come up here. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I cannot do that. I was trying to post their links here, but I don't get a, oh, that sucks. If someone could do me a favor, since you guys are out there, I know there are a couple of you who are very easy on the internet. I want the MeridenDems.com and the Republicans.net. If you guys could just post those up there for me, that'd be terrific. If you go on to both of those, they're both going to give you their bylaws and who they are. So what is a town committee? So the town committees are made up, obviously, of local residents, and it is an offshoot of the state party. That's basically what they are. They are the state's eyes and ears in each town. And the way it works is you have your your national committee, your Republican, the RTC, the DTC, and then you have your state parties, and then you have your local parties. And in some states, you have your county parties. It all depends on what your system of government is. In the state of Connecticut, we have towns. So each town will have a Republican and a Democratic town committee, and their job is to obviously promote their party. So we just talked about the Russia-Ukraine. You can go back and listen to that. We go answer questions at the end if you like. That's one of our members on Twitch now. So what your RTCs and DTCs are supposed to do is, again, promote the values of their reflective parties. Thank you, Elaine, for putting that one up there. So you can get me the Democrat one. That'd be great. What are their jobs? So their jobs as a local RTC or DTC is to obviously to promote their values, the Democrat or Republican values. And their jobs are also, most importantly, is to get elected their respective party candidates. That's basically what their main objective is. And to disseminate their message to the people. So how do you get on to an RTC or DTC? So like I said, we've posted both here. Well, maybe we haven't posted both here. I am going to do it there. There you go. I just did it. So there's the Meriden Dems one. So again, and it doesn't matter to me what side of the aisle you're on here, because to me, it doesn't matter. This is where, if you want to get involved in the city, that's always a good thing, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated, etc. It does not matter to me as long as you are informed and you have, whatever views you have is fine, just as long as you're active in it. So if you look at the DTC, their officers obviously are Millie Ferguson. She's been there for quite a while. Joy Batista, which I believe is relatively new. Everybody knows if you're involved in politics around the city, you've heard of Jeff Frazier. He is a very vocal guy. While we do not agree on much, he is still a very vocal guy, and he very well spoken, very articulate, and I don't really have any issues with him other than he's a far left character. And then Peter Hargan, I don't know who he is. But he's their treasurer. And then on the Republican side, currently you have obviously Sean McDonald, who is chairman, Lou Arata, who is vice chair. Their website still says Devin, but that is not the case. That is Isabel. And then Josh Borkstra was the treasurer, because obviously the new committee has taken part. So what happens now? Like I said, their first meeting will be this week, if not already. I don't believe Democrats have met yet. I believe they meet this week also. So what happens is every 2 years they have an election and new town committee members are elected. Now, again, how do you join your RTC or DTC? So it's very simple. You go to either one of those websites that I just gave you, and whether or not you're on the town committee or not, it's still good to get involved and to attend some of these meetings to see what it's all about. And that's probably the best way for you to get involved. But Republicans hold their meetings on every third Wednesday at 7:00. It says on their website Augusta Cultural Center, but it's not. It's over at the North Italian American Club. I believe I said that right. And Democrats does not tell me where they hold their meetings. It actually is, it doesn't tell us much. So I have no idea where they hold their meetings, but I'm sure if you go onto their website, they have a contact us link. I'm sure you could go on there and find out where they hold their meetings. So again, the best way to get introduced to the whole system is to actually attend some of these meetings. They're very informative. You should. If you want to know where your party stands on certain issues, it is a great place to start. I'll also put together I would have just posted it here, but obviously I can't post anything like that on there. All their members, this is all this is all open to the public. You can go right to the city clerk's office and get a list of all the members of the Democratic Town Committee and all the members of the Republican Town Committee. Because it is important that you know who they are. And because that is your contact. They are your contact. If you have questions or something that has to do with any party. And of course, both websites do have links to their elected candidate, their respective elected candidates. Obviously, all the Democrats are going to be on the DTC page. All the Republicans are going to be on the RTC page. So if you're ever wondering who is elected in city government on the Republican side or Democratic side, again, these two websites are vital to getting that information. So if you do decide you want to be on an RTC, DTC, the best way to do that, again, is you have to go to meetings, and according to the bylaws, which are the rules of the town committee that are set forth by the members, you have to be attendance of a certain amount of meetings to be able to be nominated for a seat. So if you're a Republican, obviously contact the Meriden Republicans. If you're a Democrat, refer to them. Now, once you're elected, you serve a 2-year term. Again, you are elected to this seat. You do. I think this is something that most people on the RTC, DTC don't understand, is that it is an elected position and you represent an entire party. And being chairperson means you are responsible for everybody. And that's a huge responsibility. So once you're elected to an RTC, DTC, what are your responsibilities? Well, your first responsibility is that you should be well informed on what's going on in the city. That's number one. And I find that on both sides, a lot of the members aren't really knowledgeable on anything that's going on in the city. So I think when you're electing people for those positions, you should make sure that, one, if you're going to join one of the town committees, make sure you're in it for the long haul and that you're informed on what's going on. You're ready to participate. Your job is to participate and to help out, whether it's just the town committee raising funds, whether it's pushing an agenda, whether it's just helping out with a committee, because the town committee does have subcommittees that do various things, which we'll go into in a second. But participation is the most important thing. It's not. See, most people think that the town committees are a social club where they just meet once a month and they hang out and they bullshit and they just don't do anything. That's not the case. An effective town committee is comprised of members who help at every stage, because that's what it takes to win. And again, Democrats may get a little laxed on it because they have so much more to choose from in the city. Remember, they greatly outnumber Republicans. And I always tell Republicans, listen, if you want to be Democrats, you have to work 10 times harder because, well, you're outnumbered. So, but again, so if you want to be part of a town committee, whether you're on either side, you should be committed to helping the cause. And that is to fulfill the objectives and the goals set forth by the party. And again, that's always usually two things. One, fundraising. Two, getting candidates elected. Now, as an RTC, DTC member, you should also be part of a board. There are many boards and commissions that are in the city. A lot of those positions need to be filled. And if you're a member of the town committee on either side, you should. Again, this goes for any town too, any town or city. This is universal through the entire state. This isn't strictly to Meriden. I just happened to put those two up there because most of the people here listening are from Meriden. You should be on a board or commission to help push your respective values and your respective opinions on those committees and those boards. They're also a very good breeding ground for future candidates and future leaders of the respective parties. Obviously, we talked about fundraising. The role of town committee members are to help with fundraising. Because I tell you what, how much people sit there and say, money doesn't win elections. Money does win elections. It makes it a hell of a lot easier. You can't reach everybody all the time. On area races, yes, you can. Area races, it doesn't really take much money. It just takes someone to want to go knocking on doors. When you get into at large races, when you get to mayor races, city clerk races, stuff like that, and your state races, it can get a little, it's a lot to try to hit every door. It's almost damn near impossible. Hold on. So fundraising is a huge key thing. And I know, last year, I know it was a really important. I know we pushed it a lot, and when I was on the RTC, just last year, we raised quite a bit of money, because fundraising is key to any great campaign and any great RTC, DTC. You got to have the funds to help push those messages out, or either that you got to have very well connected people. But again, fundraising is extremely important. So as a town committee member, that should be one of your goals, knowing going in that is one of my jobs. And it is a job. It is. It is a job. It is your responsibility as taking that position to do these things. And those are basically the most important things. Now, of course, everyone has officers. Obviously, like we said, we talked about both sides with the officers, and those are coming up for election this week. Listen, we already know where I stand on some of them. I know, like I said, I don't see anything changing. I don't see anything changing in the Meriden Democratic Town Committee. I think everything's pretty much going to stay the same. From what I see and from what I hear, that is not going to change. I don't hear of any challenges going out there. The Republican side's a little different. Republicans, I think, again, I see some changes coming. At least I would hope so. But there is a challenge going out. I know the chairmanship is being challenged. I think all the way down. I actually think the whole slate is being challenged, which again, change is sometimes good. Whether or not, you believe it's going in the right direction. I've been critical, obviously, of some. So I'm hoping for change over there, because again, at the end of the day, I am a Republican. I am a conservative, and I keep even though I'm not on the RTC anymore, since, we're doing this, and I think we have a lot more reach here. I still have a very good interest on what goes on in the Republican Town Committee here. So, yeah. So not only should I, but you guys as Republicans, for those of you who are Republicans, you should have an interest in it also, on who is leading the Republican as a Republican also. Democrats, I know I have heard from some of you, and I know some of you are happy and unhappy with your town committee, but I don't see anything changing with Millie. She's done. You gotta say, she's done a decent job. She gets the money. She raises the money. She does it. So it is what it is. Usually you're not going to change something that's working for you. On the Republican side, I think you could definitely use some change. I know, like I said, chairmanship is being challenged. And like I said, vice chair and secretary and treasurer. So those are the four officers that are on both sides that are up for election this week. So like I said, I like everybody. I don't have any gripes with anybody. As people, I get along with just about everybody. So, me coming out for one person or another is just who I prefer. It's not to say that I think that the other people are bad people. I don't. I just think that things are going the other way, that need to go another way. Like Sean McDonald. I like Sean McDonald. Supported him 2 years ago. I think it's time for a change. I think Elaine Cariotti would be a much better chairperson than Sean McDonald. Lou Arata, I like Lou. But I think that, the whole leadership needs to go, and I think that it needs to change. And I think Kurt Horgan would be a much better selection for vice chair. And then I don't know who Nicole Neves is, so I don't know who that is. So I think she's new. And then Jen Kiss, who is well known throughout the city. He is a business owner here in the city of Merida. I think he'd be a great treasurer. And I know Josh has retired. Josh has moved on from the RTC along with myself. Because we have other things going on. But so that would be my choice for if I was still on the RTC. That's who I would be voting for. But I don't try to influence anyone's votes. I just say, what I believe and how I see it. And I would go there. Yeah, listen, Isabel did a great job, and she stepped into a tough situation. She did. I'm very proud of her. So she did do a very good job. So, she's going to do it. The current committee, listen, was doing, it took a lot of work to make that happen, but it is what it is. But I do see, I do hope for change in the Republican side. We'll see what happens. And we'll go from there. But again, the town committees, another role of the town committee is to work with their elected officials. And not only to work with them, but I also believe it's the RTC's and DTC's responsibility to hold their people accountable. Because that's something that doesn't happen on either side. And I have issues with that. Just because they're part of your party doesn't mean you don't hold people accountable for what they do. And I think that's one of the problems when you get into party politics. And it's one of the things that and the one thing that pushes people away from politics is exactly that, is when you don't hold them accountable for what they do. Now, listen, I got in trouble many a times over the last year about what I say on this show, especially when it went against the party that I was part of. Just because you're an elected official in the city of Meriden or in the state or in the country doesn't mean you're free from criticism from within your party. Especially when you go against 90% of what your party represents. To sit there and think that you're not subject to criticism because throughout the years you've been given a free pass is not right. And I think that's what turns most people off from politics. Because that they believe it's all just the same, and it's not. It's not. And again, a town committee is supposed to hold their elected officials accountable for what they do. But also at the same time, there should be good communication between elected officials and their respective town committees. And they should be working on a plan, on an agenda, on a platform, on what is their main goals. What is their main goal? And that should be a unifying document that says, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we're trying to do. So if it's for the Democrats who's trying to push this social justice BS, that should be what the town committee and their elected officials are trying to do every time they go out there in the public. For Republicans, it should be protecting our police department, protecting our tax base, protecting our citizens. That should be the main objective, keeping taxes low. That should be the main objective of the Republican elected officials and the town committee. And they should be working together hand in hand to make sure every time that they go out in public that that is the message that's being sent. And when that's not being sent on either side, from the elected side or the town committee side, there should be communication there. Always. And like I said, I've said this here before, and those discussions should be held in private at first. You should work that stuff out in private within your respective town committees. If it can't be done there, then it gets put out into the public. And you let the public decide. And let the public decide that. I would never criticize any Republican, again, just me personally, as a town committee member. I would never go after any Republican without having conversations in private with them first and trying to work it out. That is how it's supposed to work when you have inter-party issues. You should always try to work it out within the party first and have those private discussions. If not, then it's fair game. And that's happened in the past. Like I said, I've talked about many things on this show here that have pissed Republicans off, but it is what it is. I try to have those conversations first. If they don't, then it is what it is. But the town, again, being a town committee member is an extremely important job. It's an extremely important job. There's only 40 of them in the entire city. I don't know how many are on the Democratic side. It doesn't say on the. I tried searching through their website. It doesn't give you really much information on how many members there are and who the members are. The Republicans are a little bit more open on it. So, but that is in a nutshell what your town committees are supposed to do. And it should be a very interesting week. We got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, you have the town committees meeting. They're going to have new officers or returning officers, however it pans out. Those will be all set. I hope they both go and update their web pages, because both web pages are grossly outdated. So please, whoever's listening on the Republican side, the Democratic side, please do me a favor. Go fix your damn pages, because people are going to look at it and be like, what are you talking about? Half these people aren't even here anymore. So please go ahead and fix your web pages and bring them up to date, because they are not up to date on either side. So please go ahead and do that. Listen, if you want, again, this is another thing. You want your members to be educated. And again, it's all a PR war. That's basically what it is. It's a big PR war. So you got to make sure that your pages are up to date. You got to make sure that your social media is out there and people can see it. And make sure that people can get in touch with you. Like I said, I look at both pages and I see some work that needs to be done on them. So again, if we'll talk about this next week. We'll talk about who wins those elections and who are going to be the officers for the town committees. Because again, I think it is important. You should know who they are, and you should reach out to them. No matter, like I said, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, make sure you're reaching out to them. They should be very accessible to you. Our town committee members. Yeah, well, if you're talking about election time, that's a whole different conversation. And again, and you're absolutely right. If you got to get paid to do the work that a town committee member should do, then you shouldn't be a town committee member. But let me just clarify: no Democrat gets paid to be on the town committee. So let me just make that very clear. It is not a paid position. So these are all voluntary positions. I think what Dan is talking about is when it's election time and they're poll workers. The people that stand out at the polls, some of them on the Democratic side are paid by the unions and stuff. So I think that's what he's talking about. And I just want to make sure I clarified that Democrats are not paid to be on the town committee, since that's what we were talking about. It's all right, Dan. I got you. I knew what you meant. I knew exactly what you meant. So yeah. So the town committee members, it is a voluntary basis. They are not paid to do it. They do it because they want to push their values, and they feel that they have the best vision for the city or state or the federal government, whatever. They have their best interest. And like I said, 90% of politics between Democrats and Republicans, we agree on. It really is 90%, if not more. 90% of what we talk about, Republicans and Democrats are pretty much in lockstep. It's that 10%. And it all depends on what level you're at. I believe, and in fact, it's statistically proven, the closer you get to the local level, the more conservative people are. And as you get to the state level and to the federal level, a lot of people become a little bit more, liberal. Because again, when you talk about national politics and stuff like that, you get into issues like abortion and stuff like that, which you really don't talk about on the local level. So you always find that on the local level, even though that's starting not to become the case, because a lot of these, like again, in the city of Meriden, a lot of the city councilors are trying to bring the national stuff into the local. They're trying to bring a lot of national issues like police brutality, which is not a problem here in the city of Meriden. But people like Majority Leader Sonia Jelks and Cortez and Tomasetti and Graham, they're hell-bent on bringing to the city of Meriden, trying to push a false narrative. They've been pushing that false narrative for the last year and a half, which is why we've been here pushing back so hard. Because I'm not ready to allow anybody to push a misperception of the city of Meriden. Especially when you want to call us racist and you want to call our police and you want to say that our police have a police brutality problem, which in no way has ever been proven. And they know this. So, again, while things mostly are conservative on the local level, they have found that to be a problem. So, therefore, they're trying to push these big national agendas, and they're trying to make them relevant to the city when they're not. And I think that's probably my biggest problem with local politics now. So, but again, that's a decision that their town committee made. That's what their town committee decided to do. That's the route they're taking. The Democrats in the city of Meriden have taken a far left. I think most Republicans are still middle of the road. Me, I find myself a little bit more to the right. I wouldn't consider myself a moderate. I was considering myself a conservative. But again, talking with people that I see all the time, especially Democrats and again, some of my socialist friends, as they love to call themselves, at the end of the day, they care. They see a lot of Republican values. They see it in the Republican values until you get to the national level. And then when you get into, like I said, you get into the whole abortion thing and stuff like that, that's where you really start seeing that divide between left and right and conservative versus liberal. But the more you get to the local side, we've all been called racist for living in East Haven. We've been dealing with that for how long? I mean, it's been 20 years since I lived in there. Have I lost? Yes, I have lost weight, by the way. I've lost a good 15 pounds. Thank you very much, sir. The camera is supposed to add 10. So I would say I look damn good. So, and listen, but again, when people label you that, they do it to try to get you to stop what you're doing. And that usually works for most. That does not work for me, obviously, because I don't really care what you call me. And I can say whatever I want because, well, I have no boss. I don't have to worry about. In fact, if anyone hasn't watched that episode, there was a UFC fighter that's been taking a lot of heat for what he said about the whole Ukraine thing and about politicians and politics in America in general. And I think if you haven't seen it yet, I suggest you go. It was a cattle farmer from Arkansas. Maybe I'll play it next week, but we need people to speak out. Listen, people, this whole woke culture that's going on in America today is probably the most dangerous thing you could have. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So, listen, people cannot back down from them. And if you tell them to screw off, they'll most likely go away. But the problem is they scream and yell so much, and politicians on both sides, I'm not just going to blame one side or another, politicians on both sides, they don't like to be yelled at, they don't like to be criticized because they think it looks bad on them. And again, that's on both sides, which is why these games are played. And usually for us silent people who don't scream and yell at them are usually the ones that are usually pushed to the side, unless we've done what we've done here on this show, is that we come together as one unit and we push our agenda. And in some ways, we are a town committee here on this show. If you think about it, we are basically a town committee. We meet once a week, which they meet once a month. We meet once a week here to discuss what's going on in the city, state, and country. Sometimes the world. And then we form our opinion here, and that's what we push. If you don't agree with it, you don't push it. But in some ways, in some aspects, we are a town committee here. And I think we've done some great things on coming together as one. Obviously, listen, politicians watch the show, even though they say they don't. And they like to criticize the show, they're still here listening every single week. And if they're not listening live, they're watching it after. They're watching the show at some point. Because I heard one person walked into the bar and got really pissed at some of the people that were there that I kept pushing their name. And I kept saying things that they don't think is true. So, and then try to criticize, say, oh, we only have 6 followers anyways. Then what are you so worked up about it for? If we only have 6 followers, what are you worked up about it for? What do you care what we say here on the show? But again, they're not going to push us away. So, what are you guys talking about here? Ukraine now regretting not joining NATO. They didn't have a choice to join NATO. They were not ever offered to join NATO. So, that was never a regret from them. They would love to have joined NATO. So, Ukraine was never given the opportunity. Just for an FYI, for clarification on what you guys are talking about there. Listen, I wear my Trump stuff. I love my Trump stuff. In fact, I still have my Trump flags up here, even in the studio. Listen, listen. When it comes down to it, and if this clarifies anything, which is why I don't like politicians, the way this country is being run now. And I think, like I said this a year and a half ago when Biden was elected. I said this would be the best thing and the worst thing for the country. I said the election of Joe Biden will be the best and worst thing for this country. It will be the worst thing because this is exactly what I predicted was going to happen. All this nonsense was exactly what I predicted. But I said it's the best thing is because we proved in 4 years what you can do when you don't care about politics. Donald Trump, love him or hate him, did not care about the politics of it. He looked at everything as a business decision. And he did what was best for America, which is what his job is. And he proved in 4 years with total opposition from Democrats, with 2 impeachments, that he could still get shit done. Love him or hate him for what he said, doesn't matter. I didn't like his Twitter page. I don't care. I wish he'd just shut up. But what he did policy-wise, he was spot on. And it's going to prove we had peace during Donald Trump. We had prosperity during Donald Trump. Now we have chaos and the brink of war, World War III, which I think has already started. And when 2024 comes back around and Donald Trump is reelected, when he is reelected and he fixes all this shit again, it's going to prove once and for all. I will say this once and for all. You will never see another politician ever elected to the office of president. It will be proven. If Donald Trump comes back in and in 4 years fixes this entire mess, you will never see another politician elected president. If they are, this country is filled with the dumbest friggin' people in the world. Because you need a businessman. This is a business we run. Same thing in the city. Whether you look at the city, state, any government, it should be run as a business. Because that's what it is. It is not incorporated for no reason. The town is incorporated for a reason because it's a business. Our business is in competition with 168 other towns and cities in the city of Meriden. We are in competition every single day for residents, for businesses. That's what we are in competition for every single day. And the way you run your city dictates whether or not you get those businesses or residents. And in the city of Meriden, we're not getting either. We're losing them. We're losing them. Because people are too busy playing politics than doing what's right on behalf of the citizens of the city and the businesses of the city, the corporations and businesses. That's the problem. Trump and Elon Musk. I wish it's going to be Trump and DeSantis from Florida. That is going to be the 2024 ticket. If it's not, I'll be highly disappointed because I think it's going to be Trump and then DeSantis is going to be president afterwards. In my perfect world, that's how I see it. At least that's how I hope it is. So, I think it's very important. Donald will not be. Listen, there is no one that's going to stop Donald Trump from being president again. It's not going to happen. This country is a shit show right now. An absolute shit show. Well, then how can we ever get real people in office then? What do you mean? Sure we can. How can we not get real people in office then? All you need are people that, one, are educated in business, that can articulate their main objectives, and has the ability to go out there and push their values out there. That's how you do it. It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. Anyone could do it. Listen, these people did not become, Trump did not become who he is from being nice. He was dedicated and ambitious in getting what he wanted. That's a good thing. People see, again, we talked about ambition last week when I was talking about the mayor. And I said, listen, I don't ever discourage anyone from being, I don't ever criticize anyone for being ambitious. Ambitious is good. It's a great thing because it means you are dead set on doing something. You're willing to do the steps. Now, the problem is, where I have an issue is how you get to those goals. How you get to those goals. Now, if you're willing to just be an opportunist and just think of yourself instead of, especially in politics, instead of thinking about yourself, you're only thinking about yourself and not the people that you represent, then I have an issue. Because then you're a typical politician and you're not going to succeed. So I love how people sit there and say that when we talk about Donald Trump, he says business failures. So Democrats love and liberals love to talk about the 5 or 6 business failures that Donald Trump has. But they don't want to talk about the 490-something success stories that he has. And all the work he's done to help small businesses, especially minority businesses, with loans to build their business. But yes, let's concentrate on the 4 or 5. Okay, so you guys want to talk about Ukraine again. So that's good. Okay, I got that. Let's talk about this. So let's see. Biden was correct not going in to help Ukraine. It will start World War III. World War III already started. It's already here. It's already here. Listen, we as Americans, and this is where my point of view is on it. We as Americans have a responsibility. There is a responsibility that comes with being the superpower in the world. We do have a responsibility. We've done it with whether it was South Korea, whether it was Korea, whether it was Kuwait, whether it was, they didn't do anything for Crimea, whether it comes to Ukraine. We are the last beacon of true freedom in the world for now, because with this whole coronavirus, we've given a lot of that freedom up. We gave a lot of that freedom up after 9/11 with the Patriot Act, which I was against. So, but to sit there and say that, and here's the problem I have with with Joe Biden's stance on Ukraine, and really the whole Western, even with Europe, is that, well, Ukraine, since they're not in NATO, they're on their own. But if they go into the Baltics or Poland, no, we're all in. We're all in. We're going to do everything we need to. But they're afraid of nuclear weapons. So, are you afraid of nuclear weapons or are you not afraid of nuclear weapons? Are you afraid of nuclear weapons just because of Ukraine? Or is it all of a sudden you're not afraid of nuclear weapons because it's Poland or the Baltics? You got to choose. You can't be at both spots. What's going on in Ukraine is disgusting. And as Americans, I would never think we'd be for allowing this kind of shit to happen. Now, do we have to put boots on the ground? Absolutely not. We don't. We could sit there and take out that entire army with simple drones. No doubt in my mind. That 40-mile caravan that they had going on there could have been destroyed in hours. Could have been destroyed in hours, saving tons of lives. But we chose not to. No, I'm not afraid of nuclear weapons. For what? No, they did not turn them down. NATO, they were only giving them partial protection. They were not getting full protection of NATO because that means Russia would have been pissed. That's the only reason why they did not get steps to be part of NATO. Russia was totally against it because Russia believes that Ukraine is still a part of Russia. So, no. So that is not an accurate statement. Well, they're getting the jets hopefully from Poland. They're getting the MiGs from Poland, which is good. Listen, I would love to see an A-10. And listen, A-10 pilots are drooling at a 40-mile convoy. Oh my God, an A-10 pilot is literally the most excited person in the entire world. But they'll never get the chance to do that. If you want to do that, you got to do drones or predictable strikes from battleships. But no, NATO was given limited protection. Now, with the problem, what most people don't know is that Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons. Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons at United States asking for protection. And look what that's got them. Look what that's got them. Ukraine gave up their nuclear weapons because we offered them protection. And look at the protection they got. So, it is what it is. It is what it is. But again, I'm just wondering how long are Americans willing to watch the devastation and the atrocities going on over there in Ukraine before we turn around and say enough is enough. Put an end to this now. And America and Germany and the United Kingdom and France and Spain, we all have the ability to do it. Why wait for them to get to your door? Doesn't make any sense. As American, like I said, personally, as Americans, I thought we were better than this. I could be wrong. Maybe most people are okay with this. I'm not. Well, it's not only just Biden. There's a lot of Republicans too. Listen, China's doing their own thing. China's getting ready for Taiwan. The last thing that China wants to do is have to deal with Russia's problems. The United States can't stop them all alone. You're absolutely correct. But the last thing China wants to do is get involved in Russia's crap. Because China has their own objectives. And Iran would be very cautious. Because any weakness there, and Israel will take care of that. So, I mean, listen, it's complicated over there. No doubt. No doubt it's complicated. But certain steps can be taken to take care of this. And not have to worry about them going into Poland or the Baltics. This should have never started to begin with. And I'm still a firm believer. If Donald Trump was in office, they would not have done this at all. There is no way in hell Putin would ever have done this with Donald Trump in office. Again, love him or hate him, peace through strength always works. It always has. It always will. When we show weakness, when America shows weakness, is when these other countries take shit into their own hands. When they know there's going to be no pushback, sanctions aren't going to kill them. Their oil is being taken by Iran and by China. They're not hurting us. I mean, they're not hurting them. We're not hurting them. There are still enough countries that dislike us that will buy their oil and will buy their wheat. And that is happening. So I just do not see China getting into Russian problems over there in Ukraine. It's not in their best interest because they have their own objectives. But again, we'll talk about this again next week. Now, so you got to read the next two comments down from that. We already took care of that. They do not get paid. A little late to the game. Are you just joining us, Sue? Love you, Sue. Don't worry about it. No, Trump wouldn't have to worry about being in there. No, he wouldn't have. None of this would have happened under Trump. That is a fact. And even Democrats understand that. This would never have happened under Trump. Ever. No one's Craig, are you listening to what we're saying here? We're not aching for an all-out conflict with Russia. We could simply, all I'm saying is that we could simply take care of Russia in a matter of weeks. That, they're little, I won't even go into it. We could take care of them very quickly. Giving medicine to your cat. What's wrong with your cat? Or which one? So you have to go and watch the show halfway through. We discussed that. But we'll discuss more about it again. I think we'll still be talking about Ukraine next week. So, no, listen, Putin's not looking for a fight with NATO. He's not looking for a fight. Listen, he knows he's just trying to do his best before he leaves office for whatever reason it is to try to put as much of the Soviet Union empire back into place. It was Crimea at first, and then it was with Ukraine. And the only reason why and really the one thing he's going on with Ukraine is that he needs the water supply for Crimea. So if anyone who doesn't understand this, go back and if, again, I don't have time to do it here with you. What happened was the first thing that happened. What did Ukraine do when they took Crimea, when Russia took Crimea? The first thing they did was build a dam to shut off water going down to Crimea. And if you notice, if you go back and read, was one of the first places they hit with bombs when Russia came into Ukraine was the dam to release water back to Crimea. Because if anyone does not know, Ukraine is their soil is very rich, and they grow a lot of food in Ukraine. And they used to do so down in Crimea before, again, Ukraine shut the water off. So this thing has a lot of different moving parts and a lot of different reasons why they're doing what they're doing that we could talk to for days. But that was one of the first things they did when they went into Ukraine. And which is why I said the most important thing is they did this for the water supply. But also they want to get rid of the government there in Ukraine so they could put a pro-Russia government in place. So, but again, like I said, we'll talk about this again next week. I didn't even get into the House district races. They did finalize the House district, and the 82nd district is now an all Meriden district. So they got rid of Middlefield and Rockville. That went over to Craig Fishbein's 90th district. So that basically seals up the deal for him because those are a lot of Republican votes. That really sealed up the deal. And they gave the 83rd. Now, the 83rd, like I said, is a total mess now. I look at the 83rd. That's a lot. A lot of 83rd. That's now Cheshire. Parts of Cheshire. They still have Berlin. We still have Meriden. We lost a little bit in Meriden. And then we have Cheshire that was added. So, believe it or not, they still have me, since I was right on the border of the 83rd and 82nd. I am still in the 83rd. It ends at the corner of my street. So I was surprised. I thought I thought the east side was going to get thrown into the 82nd, but I was mistaken. And going back and looking at this map, I could see why we were left there. If you look at the area where I am, no, they were not in the 83rd. They are now. There was no Cheshire in the 83rd. So the 83rd used to consist of Meriden and Berlin, and that's it. And now this time we will have Cheshire in. Cheshire used to belong in the 86th and the 90th. But the reason why they kept the east side, because I'm looking at, if you know, obviously I study election results very carefully every year. I look at my area, it's heavily Democratic. When you look at Carpenter Street, you look at Dexter, Hillcrest, Lydell Place, and all those places around there, highly Democrat. And they need those Democratic votes to offset the Berlin. Now, they did get Cheshire. The one section of Cheshire that the 83rd got is purple at best. When you look at the voting records, you had... yes, Cheshire's Senate seat has, the 13th district has Cheshire. So if you look at Cheshire, it's very purple for the areas that the 83rd has obtained. Now, I do a lot of business, believe it or not, in the new 83rd of Cheshire. Blacks Road, South Meriden Road, East Johnson. Believe it or not, I actually do a lot of business out there, and I actually know a lot of the residents out there, which I can't wait to get their opinion on how they feel about being in the 83rd and being part of Meriden Berlin. So it will be quite interesting to get their perspective on it. But yeah, but I see why they kept the east side of Meriden. They do need those Democratic votes to offset Berlin, and I think Cheshire. I think the 83rd is won and lost in Cheshire this year because nobody knows. Everybody's going to be new to the area. So it's going to take a lot of campaigning out there in the 83rd over in Cheshire to win that race. I still listen again. I caught some shit this week. Some people are telling me that, some people are not running for the 83rd. I'm still not buying it yet. Listen, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit it. But like I said, I haven't been wrong yet. I have not been wrong yet in anything I've talked about. 84th is still in just Meriden, just the downtown area. Cheshire, no, not necessarily. There are a lot of parts of Cheshire that are highly Democrat. Remember who comes from Cheshire, and really who got them started. It was this area of Cheshire that got Chris Murphy started. So that's something people should pay attention to. This is not a very Republican section, but it's not a very Democratic one either anymore. So it is purple, like I said, at best, if not leaning more towards Democrat, if anything. But it is the starting point for Chris Murphy, who is now our U.S. Senator. So it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. Like I said, I know a lot of people from this area, and from the people I know, they are both Democrat and Republican, my customers. So, we'll see how. Filler Up is another thing. Just a side note. Filler Up is very excited that we have joined the Meriden Little League. We have actually donated a sponsorship for the Meriden Little League. We talked about them here on the show maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago about the crap that the Board of Ed's doing there, which we're still not done with that yet. I think the Board of Ed still has a lot to answer for on that. But we have committed to a division sponsorship, which is their highest sponsorship that they have for their group. So we're excited about that. Philip's excited to be part of the Meriden Little League. And for those who are playing, and hopefully you'll have, maybe you'll play on a filler up a team. I look forward to watching some of those games, and I'm extremely happy and proud to be affiliated with the Meriden Little League. We look forward to a great relationship, and we'll be donating in the future. So that's just a little side note there. But yeah, I think, again, the 83rd is going to be a very interesting race. Very, very interesting race. I'm looking forward to it. I'm waiting to see how this all plays out. You know, like I said, I still think I'm accurate on participants in this race. I always said that I was thinking about joining this race, and I'm still debating on whether to join in on this race over here in the 83rd. I know I know I've been the closest to ever win that seat. We only lost it by 150 votes. 5 years ago, I think it was. I think it was 5 years ago. We came really close to winning that seat, which we should have won that seat. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll announce it next week whether we are or aren't doing it. So now Kermit the Frog is better than Current. I don't know what you mean there. So you'd have to explain that. But we'll see what happens. We'll talk about it more next week. You know, after everything kind of clears off, we'll you know, everybody who's running for these offices is going to have to start declaring. And again, you know, campaigning is going to start. I think for the 83rd. Well, she's gone now. So I do hear of another person though. I'll throw a little tidbit of information out there that I keep hearing about. So I've been told adamantly that the mayor is not running. So I keep hearing that the mayor is not running, and I hear he's pretty aggravated. I keep saying it that he is running, but I still believe he will be the nominee, because I don't think they have anyone else that could win that seat. So the name I have been hearing back and forth is Ken Morgan running for the 83rd. So that would be interesting. So anyone that doesn't know who Ken Morgan is, he's the current fire chief, who from what I hear is going to be the new assistant city manager, which should be very interesting. If he does that, then I'm taking it he's going to be leaving his fire department job and moving over to the city manager's office. But I've heard that from a reliable source, and we'll keep an eye on that to see if that does indeed happen. But we'll talk about that again more next week, because I really want to get into this whole redistricting of the maps, because I think that this, with Hilda Santiago possibly running for Secretary of State, which I think from what I'm hearing, she's doing an amazing fundraising job. And I hear she's doing extremely well. No, it'd be a lateral move. I think she's doing, from what I hear, she's doing a tremendous job on fundraising and getting her name out there. I think Hilda may get the nomination for Secretary of State. Listen, she's a likable person. She's very likable. I've talked to her several times. Very nice. So to me, it's almost like that motherly persona she puts on. I think she's a very nice lady. I just don't agree with her politics. But she's not one of those down and dirty politicians, from what I could tell. But she really hasn't had any challenge either in the 84th, with it being mostly downtown. But we'll talk about who her possible replacement may be, who's going to run, which I'm still thinking it's going to be Sonia Jelks, if that does happen. And that would be very interesting for any Republican who decides to run. But again, we'll talk about all of that stuff next week. until then, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to talk about, obviously, Russia next week. We'll talk about, again, the redistricting. We'll talk about the upcoming races. I'm hoping to make a decision by the end of next week on what I plan on doing, and we'll go from there. So, guys, as always, it's always a pleasure here talking with you guys. I love the fact that you guys sit here and blow up the message boards. That's always great. I love it when you guys are engaged and you're having communication not only with me but with yourselves, within yourselves. I think it's awesome. And I definitely think that having the additional platforms on, I think has brought in a new audience. I see a lot of questions and stuff coming from our Twitch platform. So that's great. So again, guys, it's always a pleasure being here. I love each and every one of you guys. I wish we could sit here all night long and discuss this stuff, but we would literally be here all day. So again, my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody over there in Ukraine. You're doing a hell of a job. Keep up the good freaking work. Keep pushing back. And to all those people that are Ukrainian that are going back to their homelands to fight, God bless you, each and every one of you. Elon Musk, God bless you for still paying all these people for the next 3 months while they go back over there. Now, that is an amazing gesture. Elon Musk, we got to talk about him one day, one show, because the things that he's been doing lately is friggin' unbelievable. And people only dare do and say what he's been saying. So we'll talk about that again next week. Guys, until then, I love each and every one of you. All you guys have a safe week. We will be back here next Sunday, same time, 7 p.m. Until then, I love you. God bless you. And of course, as always, God bless this great country of us. God bless the United States. I love you and good night.
And a million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath. When you pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath. When they pry it from the cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. We're rising up, rising up, we're rising up, rising up, we're rising up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist.